Howdy, for my biofuel project, I chose algae. As for the background for algae, they're photosynthetic organisms ranging from microscopic all the way to seaweed, and the fuel they produce is generally diesel. And then the way the algae are grown and cultivated, they're normally grown in ponds, open pond systems, which are usually large and shallow and have just sunlight that they use. And they're more affordable, but they're a little bit harder to control because they're outside, so there's more things you can't control because it's an open system basically. And then you can also use photobioreactors, which are more expensive, but they are more controlled in what you can input. So they're usually transparent tubes or tanks, and then you can control the temperature, the light, and the nutrients that are put in there, along with how much carbon dioxide you're using. The production of algae is utilizes photosynthesis, so it starts with light. So for the ponds, it would be sunlight, and then for the photobioreactors, it could be artificial, or they could also use sunlight in their facilities. And then they need carbon dioxide for the photosynthesis, water. The good thing about the water, though, is it can actually range from fresh water to salt water, all the way to actually wastewater, which could be helpful both to the algae and to our environment, cleaning up our water systems. And then the nutrients that they need is actually nitrogen, phosphorus, iron, and then some varying other minerals. And then for the temperature, they like it around 20 to 30 degrees Celsius, which is about room temperature. And then the algae also needs to be mixed because if it settles, it's not going to grow as much. And so basically the picture down to the bottom right actually illustrates that. So the photosynthesis is starting at the top left, and then the algae is grown, and then it's actually harvested and it's dewatered so that the oil can then be extracted or fermented. And then the algae oil is converted to biodiesel, which is the most common part, or it can be converted into bioethanol if it's fermented. As for the developmental stages of the algae biofuel, it's actually in the late research stages and early developmental processes. And there's actually companies like ExxonMobil, which is a very big player in fuel in our world, that have actually started to run pilot plants, so kind of test runs for algae farms to see how well they work and how sustainable they are. And then the impact on the carbon footprint for algae farms is actually pretty good, as they can absorb the carbon dioxide, countering emissions from the actual fuel they can produce and burn off. And then you could also go one step further and put the algae farms next to industrial carbon dioxide plants and have their emissions actually get taken care of by those as well. And then they also don't require deforestation for these plants because you could just use something as simple as a pond or something like that. And they're also great for filtering out the wastewater. The economic impact of algae as a biofuel could actually be rather far-reaching in its impacts. So for the positive ones, it could create more jobs such as wastewater treatment or aquacultures or fuel productions or even just research jobs to research better algae strains that would produce more oil. And also supports wastewater industries. Some of the negative impacts economically would just be that they're pretty expensive to produce right now, and it takes a high investment price to actually get going. As for biofuel outreach, what people have done so far for the algae biofuel, they've done some promotional videos from the biofuel companies. Um, like in this picture to the right, there's airlines featuring algae-based jet fuel, at least partly, maybe not all the way, but it's a start. And then some news outlets have promoted it as the future fuel. For my personal analysis of algae as biofuel, I've kind of weighed the pros and the cons. So for my pros, I was thinking that environmentally, it's a better alternative to fossil fuels and it allows for a larger job market and it could become highly sustainable in the future. The cons to this, though, is that fossil fuels are still more cost effective and the startup for algae farm prices are high, along with oil extraction from algae being difficult slash tedious to deal with. But if I had all the money in the world, I would start by building a large algae farm facilities, funding research facilities for algae, and high promotional demonstrations across social media platforms. Overall, to start a new wave of biofuel for the future.